I'm Amber Hayes, 29 years old, and I woke up on Thanksgiving morning to silence. The kind that feels wrong. No kitchen sounds, no coffee brewing, no voices. Walking downstairs, I found empty rooms and cold air. A single note on the counter confirmed my worst fear. My entire family had left for a luxury Thanksgiving getaway in Aspen without me. Not forgotten. Abandoned. This wasn't forgetfulness. This was deliberate. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how I turned the ultimate family betrayal into the greatest victory of my life. To understand why waking up alone on Thanksgiving hit me so hard, you need to know about the Hayes family. Picture perfect from the outside. Wealthy, connected, and envied. My father Richard built Hayes Financial Services from nothing, turning it into a regional powerhouse through what everyone called brilliant strategy. Mother Pamela transformed herself from small-town girl to society maven, orchestrating our family image with military precision. And then there was my sister Brianna, the golden child, who married Jason Keller, heir to a real estate empire. And me? I was the responsible but overlooked middle child. The steady accountant with a disappointing lack of ambition, as my father often said. I'd moved back home 6 months earlier, after a devastating breakup with Tyler, my boyfriend of 3 years. It was supposed to be temporary while I saved for a new place. But it quickly became clear I didn't fit into the Hayes family narrative anymore. "Amber, darling, when are you going to do something with yourself?" Mother would ask during our weekly family dinners, somehow making darling sound like an insult. Brianna is already on the board of 3 charities, and Jason just closed that marvelous deal in Phoenix. What I couldn't tell them was that I'd been noticing irregularities in the family business finances, small discrepancies that grew more concerning each time I looked. My accounting expertise was becoming a liability rather than an asset. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I'd committed the unforgivable sin of questioning Jason's business practices during dinner. "That development in Scottsdale seems unusual," I said innocently. The approval came through remarkably fast, considering the environmental concerns. The table went silent. Jason's smile froze. Father's knuckles whitened around his fork. "Not everyone moves at your cautious pace, Amber." Brianna snapped. "Some of us actually know how to get things done." Later that same evening, I defended my cousin Lucy when Brianna mocked her struggling catering business. "At least she built something herself instead of marrying into success," I said. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Mother excused herself with a sudden headache. Father gave me that disappointed look I knew so well. This wasn't our first family tension. Last Thanksgiving had been equally uncomfortable when I brought Tyler, whose working-class background became obvious when he used the wrong fork for salad. The subtle sneers, the exchanged glances, the way Mother helpfully corrected him throughout dinner. 2 months later, Tyler suddenly ended our relationship, citing different life directions. The timing never made sense until now. Over the following weeks before this Thanksgiving, I noticed hushed conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. Brianna and Mother exchanging knowing looks over coffee. Father working late in his home office, shredding documents when I knocked. One evening, while searching for a stapler in Father's office, I discovered financial statements showing concerning transactions, large sums moving between accounts with no clear business purpose. When I asked about them casually the next morning, Father announced a new house rule. His office was off limits. The signs were all there. I just couldn't assemble the puzzle pieces yet. Then came the final clue. A dinner conversation 3 days before Thanksgiving. "So where are we having Thanksgiving this year?" I asked, passing the potatoes. "Right here, of course," Mother replied smoothly. "Traditional as always." Father nodded a bit too enthusiastically. Brianna suddenly became fascinated with her wine glass. I should have recognized the lie. I should have seen what was coming. But sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you least expect to betray you. My hands trembled as I read the note again. "Amber, decided to try something different this year. Food in fridge. Back Sunday. Mom. No explanation. No invitation. Just 14 cold words scrawled in my mother's elegant handwriting. I ransacked the house looking for answers, the magnitude of the betrayal growing with each discovery. Their closets were missing luggage. The family calendar in the kitchen had a suspicious erasure mark over Thanksgiving week. The shared family iPad was gone. My phone buzzed with an Instagram notification. Brianna had just posted a photo. My breath caught as I opened it. My entire family, parents, sister, brother-in-law, Aunt Kate, Uncle Philip, and 3 cousins, smiling in a private jet. The caption read, "Annual Hayes Family Tradition. This year we're elevating Thanksgiving." Literally. Luxury Thanksgiving family time missing, the black sheep Aspen bound. Missing the black sheep. The words burned into my brain. Not forgotten. Excluded. I called everyone. Mother, father, Brianna, even Aunt Kate, who always had a soft spot for me. All calls went straight to voicemail. "This can't be happening," I whispered to the empty kitchen. I switched on the family computer, desperate for answers. In the Gmail trash folder, I found an email chain about the annual Hayes Thanksgiving retreat. Annual? This was clearly not the first time. The messages detailed an exclusive 5-day getaway at the Cascade Mountain Lodge in Aspen, complete with private chef, skiing, and spa treatments. My name appeared nowhere in the correspondence. My phone rang. Lucy, my cousin who worked in her mother's catering business. "Amber? Thank God you answered. I just saw Brianna's post. Did they seriously leave without you? You didn't know either?" My voice sounded hollow even to myself. "No. Mom claimed I couldn't come because they needed to keep numbers even for activities. I had no idea they excluded you too. This is the 3rd year they've done this trip, Amber. 3rd year." The words hit me like a physical blow. 3 years of elaborate family vacations I'd never known about. 3 years of being told we were having traditional Thanksgiving at home while they jetted off to luxury resorts. Why would they lie to me for years? I managed to ask. Lucy's hesitation was telling. I overheard something last year. Aunt Pamela told my mom that you ask too many questions about the business and can't be trusted to keep family matters private. Just then, the landline rang. It was Hannah Foster, my mother's friend from college, who had always treated me like a daughter. "Amber, I just called to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and Pamela's cell is off. Are you all enjoying Aspen?" "Hannah," my voice cracked. "They left without me. They didn't tell me they were going." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "Oh, Amber, oh my God." Her shock sounded genuine. "I'm so sorry. Your mother told me you couldn't get time off work and were joining them tomorrow." Another lie. After we hung up, I sat on the kitchen floor and finally let the tears come. The betrayal was so complete, so methodical, that it took my breath away. This wasn't a simple oversight or misunderstanding. This was years of deliberate exclusion and lies. As I wiped my eyes, a strange clarity emerged through the pain. If they'd gone to such lengths to hide their Thanksgiving traditions from me, what else were they hiding? Why would my financially obsessed father spend thousands on private jets and luxury resorts when he complained about my modest car payment? Why was I considered a liability to be managed rather than family to be included? I stood up slowly. I could either spend the holiday feeling sorry for myself, or I could find out what my family was really hiding. The choice was clear. Something inside me hardened as I climbed the stairs to my father's study. The time for tears was over. Now I needed answers. With the house empty and a newfound determination fueling me, I began a systematic search of my family's personal spaces. I started with father's home office, normally off limits under threat of his legendary temper. The heavy oak door swung open easily, no longer protected by his imposing presence. The room smelled of leather and expensive cologne, with dark wood paneling and framed financial certificates covering the walls. Everything in perfect order, almost. The safe behind his desk portrait hung slightly ajar, a startling oversight from my meticulous father. In his rush to catch the private jet, he'd failed to secure it completely. My hands shook as I pulled it open. Inside lay folders of financial documents, property deeds, and a USB drive labeled Contingency. I spread the papers across his desk, my accounting background allowing me to quickly spot the anomalies. Large transfers to offshore accounts, shell companies with suspicious names. And, most alarmingly, documents bearing my signature, signatures I had never provided. What the hell? I whispered, examining a loan application with my forged signature from 3 months ago. The document made me personally liable for a $5 million loan to a company I'd never heard of, Ascendant Partners LLC. Moving to Brianna's room, I found her personal laptop still charging, another careless mistake. Her password took only 3 tries. Jason Forever One was embarrassingly predictable. Her email revealed conversations with father about the Amber situation and contingency plans. References to me as a liability appeared repeatedly. Then I found the photos. Hidden in a folder labeled insurance were dozens of pictures of Brianna with Tyler, my ex-boyfriend. The timestamps showed meetings dating back to months before our breakup. In some, they were laughing over drinks. In others, they were clearly intimate. The final image. Tyler and Brianna in what appeared to be a hotel room, dated just days before he ended our relationship. The betrayal knocked the wind from my lungs. My sister had seduced my boyfriend, orchestrated my breakup, and kept evidence as some sort of twisted trophy. The pieces clicked into place. Tyler's sudden claims that we were too different and wanted different things weren't his words. They were Brianna's. As I stared at the evidence of my sister's betrayal, the office phone rang. I answered automatically. Richard? Thank God. The feds came by the office today asking about Ascendant Partners. The male voice was unfamiliar and panicked. This isn't Richard, I said. Who is this? A pause. Who am I speaking with? Amber Hayes. Richard's daughter. Amber? Oh. I was looking for your father on an urgent business matter. He's unavailable. I can take a message. Another long pause. Just tell him Peter called about the documentation we discussed. It's important he call me back immediately. The line went dead. I searched Father's desk and found Peter Conrad's business card, guide, Father's longtime attorney who specialized in criminal defense. My phone rang next. Benjamin Nelson. Father's business partner. Amber. I've been trying to reach your father. Do you know where he is? On vacation, I said carefully. Vacation? Now? With the audit scheduled for Monday? My heart raced. What audit? Benjamin hesitated. The Federal Banking Commission audit. Richard knows about this. We've been preparing for weeks. He didn't mention it, I said. Mind spinning. That's concerning. Listen, I need to show you something. Some transactions have been processed with your authorization codes, but I don't recall you approving them. Ice formed in my stomach. I haven't authorized anything. That's what I was afraid of. His voice dropped. Amber, I think someone is using your credentials without permission. Can we meet today? Looking at the forged documents spread across the desk, the truth hit me like a freight train. I wasn't just excluded from a family vacation. I was being set up to take the fall for whatever financial crimes my family had committed. The timing suddenly made perfect sense. They hadn't left for a luxury Thanksgiving retreat. They had fled before the federal investigation could catch them, leaving me behind as their scapegoat. I agreed to meet Benjamin at a coffee shop rather than the office, instinct telling me to keep our meeting unofficial. While waiting for him, I used my accounting knowledge to dig deeper into the family finances. My father had always kept me away from the core business operations despite my financial expertise. Now I understood why. Using my personal laptop and the login credentials I'd found in Father's desk, I accessed the company's financial system. What I discovered made my coffee go cold in my hands. Dozens of shell companies, millions in unexplained transfers, and most damning of all, offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands established in my name without my knowledge. They've been laundering money, I whispered to myself, the pieces fitting together with horrifying clarity. Benjamin arrived, looking haggard and nervous. After ordering black coffee, he slid a file folder across the table. I found these while preparing for the audit, he said quietly. These transfers require dual authorization, supposedly from both you and Richard. But you never approved these, did you? I reviewed the documents, transfer authorizations for millions of dollars, all bearing my digital signature. Never, I confirmed. I've been kept away from this part of the business entirely. Benjamin ran a hand through his thinning hair. That's what I was afraid of. Amber, I think your father has been using your identity to authorize illegal transactions for years. Not just my father, I said grimly. This is a family operation. I returned home and continued my investigation with renewed purpose. In Mother's bedroom, I found a small safe hidden in her closet beneath hat boxes. The combination, my parents' anniversary date, ran to ZZE, yielded a USB drive and a stack of identity documents, passports, driver's licenses, and credit cards in various names. The USB contained emails between my parents, Brianna, and Jason spanning 3 years. Their plan was laid out in meticulous detail. Use my credentials to authorize questionable transactions, create offshore accounts in my name, and establish a paper trail making me appear responsible for any financial irregularities. An email from father to mother from 6 months ago chilled me to the bone. Pamela, Amber's return home is actually fortunate timing. With her physically in our house, her digital presence at the company is less likely to raise red flags. We can accelerate the timeline. Jason has the final documentation prepared to transfer liability. My own mother's response. I still don't like it, Richard. She's our daughter. Isn't there another way? Father's reply. We've discussed this. It's Amber or all of us. One sacrifice to protect the family. She's always been independent. She'll land on her feet eventually. Brianna has too much to lose. They had chosen Brianna over me. Decided my life was worth sacrificing to protect their golden child. I found more evidence in Jason's cloud storage account, which he'd linked to the family network. Detailed plans for how to frame me, including a document titled Contingency Timeline. It outlined their schedule with military precision. 1. November, Month 1. Accelerate transfer of liability to accounts. 2. Thanksgiving, Month 2. Family absence during initial investigation phase. 3. December, Month 3. Return. Express shock at discoveries. Provide evidence of culpability. 4. January, Month 4. Distance from Provide testimonials of erratic behavior. 5. February, Month 5. Complete legal separation. All liability transferred. My family had scheduled my destruction as casually as they'd plan a vacation. And, according to their timeline, I had less than a month before they would return to complete their betrayal. As this realization sank in, my laptop pinged with an alert. Someone was remotely accessing the home network. I watched in real time as files were being checked, the same files I'd been reviewing. They were monitoring me, checking whether I'd discovered their plan. I quickly closed everything, making it appear as if I'd only been watching Netflix. My heart pounded as I realized the depth of their conspiracy. This wasn't just about a vacation or family politics. This was calculated, cold-blooded betrayal designed to send me to prison while they escaped with millions. My phone buzzed with a text from Father. Hope you're enjoying the quiet house. Don't go through my office papers, client confidentiality. See you Sunday. He was warning me off, trying to ensure his scheme remained intact until they returned to spring their trap. What he didn't know was that I'd already uncovered everything, and I wasn't going to play the role of sacrificial lamb they'd chosen for me. I needed help, professional help, and I needed it immediately. With trembling fingers, I texted the one person I thought might still be in my corner, Hannah Foster, Mother's friend, who had always treated me with genuine affection. Hannah, I need to talk to you urgently. It's about my family. Please come to the house as soon as you can. Her response came quickly. On my way. The doorbell rang just as I finished hiding copies of the most damning evidence throughout the house. Hannah's familiar face, lined with concern, was the first friendly expression I'd seen all day. Amber, sweetheart, what's going on? She asked, stepping inside and embracing me. I hesitated, suddenly aware that Hannah and Mother had been friends for 30 years. Could I truly trust her? Before I explain, I said carefully, I need to know something. How much do you know about my father's business practices? Hannah's expression shifted subtly. She glanced around as if checking for listening devices, then led me to the back porch where we couldn't be overheard. I've suspected for years that Richard operates in gray areas, she said quietly. Your mother has become increasingly evasive about their finances. When she mentioned this sudden family tradition of Thanksgiving in Aspen that excluded you, alarm bells rang. She gripped my hands. Amber, I'm not just your mother's friend. I'm a corporate attorney specializing in financial crimes. Relief flooded through me. Then you're exactly who I need. Over the next hour, I showed Hannah the evidence I'd gathered. Her professional demeanor cracked only once, when she saw the emails discussing my planned sacrifice. This is... She struggled for words. Unconscionable. They're setting you up for federal fraud charges that could mean 20 years in prison. Can you help me? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I'll do more than help, Hannah said firmly. I'll make sure they don't get away with this. As Hannah began outlining legal strategies, my phone rang with an unknown number. Amber? It's Lucy. I'm calling from a burner phone. My cousin's voice was barely above a whisper. Lucy? What's going on? I'm at the resort with everyone. I flew in this morning after getting suspicious about the whole situation. Her voice trembled. I overheard something you need to know. Uncle Richard and Aunt Pamela were discussing you with Jason. They said something about you being taken care of when they return. Jason mentioned evidence in place and airtight case against you. My blood ran cold. They're talking openly about framing me? They don't know I'm listening. Everyone thinks I'm skiing. Lucy paused. There's more. They're coming back early, Saturday, not Sunday. Something about accelerating the timeline because Benjamin seemed suspicious. After thanking Lucy for the warning, I returned to Hannah with renewed urgency. We have less time than I thought, I explained. They're returning tomorrow. Hannah nodded grimly. Then we work through the night. First, we need to secure evidence properly. Create verified copies that can't be disputed in court. We established a makeshift command center in the guest room, furthest from my father's home office where monitoring software might be installed. Hannah used her legal expertise to document each piece of evidence according to proper chain of custody procedures. The key, Hannah explained, is establishing that these accounts and transactions were created without your knowledge or consent. We need to prove the identity theft angle. Using Hannah's secure laptop, we accessed the company servers through an emergency protocol that Benjamin had provided. There we found the motherlode, cloud-archived emails showing years of deliberate planning to build a case against me. The earliest dated back to when I'd first questioned some company transactions 3 years ago. They've been planning this since I almost caught them the first time, I realized, staring at the screen in disbelief. We were downloading critical files when a security alert popped up. Remote access initiated. Your father, Hannah whispered. He's checking the system remotely. We quickly disconnected, but not before securing the most crucial evidence. The close call left me shaking. I can't do this, I said, collapsing into a chair. They're my family. How could they do this to me? Hannah knelt before me, her expression fierce. Listen to me, Amber. These people are not acting like family. Family doesn't sacrifice one member to save the others. Family doesn't frame you for crimes you didn't commit. They're counting on your love and loyalty to paralyze you. Don't give them that power. Her words cut through my despair, igniting something new, determination born of betrayal. Together, we developed a comprehensive plan. Hannah would secure the evidence within the proper legal channels. I would continue to act normally, pretending ignorance of their scheme. We created a detailed timeline showing how my family had systematically destroyed my career, prospects, and personal relationships to isolate me, making me the perfect scapegoat. Remember, Hannah said as dawn broke, you're not alone anymore. We can beat them at their own game. For the first time since finding that Thanksgiving note, I allowed myself to believe I might actually survive this betrayal. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway jolted me awake. Hannah had left hours earlier to begin filing legal paperwork, and I wasn't expecting anyone. Peering through the curtains, I recognized Uncle Philip's silver Mercedes. Why was he here? According to Lucy, the entire family was still in Aspen. I opened the door cautiously. Uncle Philip stood there looking concerned, his normally immaculate appearance slightly disheveled. Amber, thank goodness, he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I came as soon as I could get away from the others. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my voice neutral despite my suspicion. I couldn't stand how they were treating you, he explained, running a hand through his silver hair. The things they were saying. It isn't right. I told Pamela I had a business emergency and flew back early. I offered him coffee, watching carefully as he settled at the kitchen counter. Uncle Philip had always been the family outsider, Mother's younger brother who never quite measured up to Father's financial success. He'd often sided with me during family disagreements. How much do you know? I asked cautiously. Enough, he sighed. Richard has been running questionable deals for years. I suspected, but seeing how callously they planned to blame everything on you, I couldn't stay silent. His apparent sincerity was compelling. For hours, he shared stories of being similarly sidelined by the family, of overhearing conversations about the Amber situation. He offered to help access additional documents from Father's law firm, where he had connections. As afternoon faded to evening, I found myself growing comfortable with Uncle Philip's presence. He seemed genuinely outraged on my behalf, offering insights into family dynamics that explained so much of my childhood. Let me show you what I've found, I said, finally, leading him to the guest room where copies of evidence were carefully organized. Uncle Philip studied the documents, asking intelligent questions that demonstrated his understanding of financial fraud. He pointed out connections I'd missed, strengthening the case against my family. This USB drive contains the most damning evidence, I explained, showing him the device. Emails explicitly discussing the plan to frame me. As I turned to retrieve additional files, something made me glance back. Uncle Philip had taken out his phone and was quietly photographing the evidence. Not just photographing, he was texting the images to someone. I moved silently behind him, reading the text over his shoulder. Richard? Found it all. She knows everything. Need to accelerate. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Who are you texting, Uncle Philip? I asked, my voice deadly calm. He jumped, nearly dropping his phone. Just making notes for myself. By texting my father? I reached for the phone, but he jerked away. You don't understand, Amber. They sent me to assess the situation, to find out what you know. His pretense of solidarity evaporated. Be reasonable. You can't win against the entire family. You lied to me, I said, anger replacing shock. You pretended to be on my side. I am on your side, he insisted, backing toward the door. I'm trying to negotiate a better outcome for you. If you cooperate now, return the evidence, they might go easier on you. I lunged for the USB drive he'd slipped into his pocket. He shoved me aside, harder than necessary, sending me crashing into the bookshelf. Don't make this worse for yourself, he warned, heading for the door. The front door opened before he reached it. Hannah stood there, taking in the scene instantly. Me sprawled beside fallen books, Uncle Philip fleeing with evidence. Stop right there, Hannah commanded, her phone held up. I'm recording this. Uncle Philip froze, calculating his options. Philip Hayes, Hannah continued in her courtroom voice. You are currently participating in evidence, tampering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Return what you've taken immediately. For a moment, I thought he might comply. Then he shoved past Hannah, racing to his car. We watched helplessly as he sped away, taking crucial evidence with him. I collapsed onto the couch, despair overwhelming me. That was my only copy of the emails. No, Hannah corrected, that was the copy we wanted him to take. The real files are secured with my paralegal. She sat beside me, though I didn't expect Philip to be their spy. Before I could respond, my phone rang, Father's number. You've been busy, Amber, he said without preamble. Philip tells me you've been snooping where you don't belong. Is that what you call discovering I'm being framed for your crimes? I shot back. A pause. Don't be dramatic. Return any documents you've taken from my office, and we can discuss your future with the company. My future in prison, you mean? That's entirely up to you, he replied coldly. Cooperate, and perhaps we can arrange something more comfortable. Continue this foolishness, and you'll find yourself facing charges alone. The line went dead. Minutes later, notifications appeared on my phone. My credit cards were declined. My bank accounts showed zero balances. Even my phone service had a cancellation notice. "They're cutting off my resources," I whispered. The reality of my situation crashing down. I had no money, no family support, and powerful enemies determined to see me imprisoned. I can't fight this. They've thought of everything. For a moment, I considered giving up, returning the evidence, accepting whatever deal they offered, hoping for leniency. Hannah gripped my shoulders. "This is exactly what they want. For you to feel hopeless and surrender. But we have something they don't." "What's that?" I asked bleakly. "The truth," she said simply. "And people willing to fight for it. Benjamin called while I was driving here. He's secured company records proving your innocence." "Why would he help me?" "Because your father betrayed him too. The offshore accounts were siphoning funds from his share of the business." Hannah's unwavering support pulled me back from the edge of defeat. We couldn't rely on family connections or insider access anymore. We needed to build our case using evidence beyond my family's control. "We need to change strategies," Hannah decided. "Instead of just defending you, we build an offensive case that exposes the entire operation." Through my tears, I nodded. The time for hoping for family reconciliation was over. Now, I was fighting for my freedom. Dawn found us hunched over laptops, methodically constructing a comprehensive case against the Hayes family criminal enterprise. Hannah had called in favors from colleagues, securing legal resources that would normally cost thousands. I contributed my accounting expertise, tracing money through the labyrinth of shell companies my family had created. "The key is establishing timeline and intent," Hannah explained, "organizing evidence chronologically. We need to prove they deliberately created this scheme to frame you." A knock at the door interrupted our work. Benjamin Nelson stood on the porch, clutching a leather portfolio and looking nervously over his shoulder. "I can't stay long," he said once inside. "Your father's associates have been watching my house." Benjamin had been my father's business partner for 15 years. A quiet, methodical man who had always treated me with respect despite my father's dismissive attitude. Now, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I've brought everything I could gather," he said, opening the portfolio to reveal company records, board meeting minutes, and financial statements. "Richard has been falsifying records for years. I suspected, but didn't want to believe it until I found transactions with my forged signature." "He did the same to you?" I asked. Benjamin nodded grimly. "Different method, same betrayal. I was supposed to be the secondary scapegoat if the primary plan failed. The primary plan being me," I concluded. "Yes. I found this in a hidden folder on the company server." He handed me a document titled Contingency Protocols. The document detailed a sickening hierarchy of sacrifice. Me as the primary scapegoat, Benjamin as the backup, and 2 junior executives as tertiary options. My family had created a layered defense, with multiple people to blame if their crimes were discovered. With Benjamin's evidence, we could establish a clear pattern of fraud that extended far beyond what I'd initially uncovered. His position as partner gave him access to records I couldn't reach, providing crucial missing pieces to our case. Together, we built a comprehensive timeline showing every step of the conspiracy. Hannah documented everything according to strict evidentiary standards, ensuring our case would hold up under legal scrutiny. "They've been moving money through 17 shell companies," Benjamin explained, pointing to a diagram we'd created. Each transfer designed to obscure the source and create plausible deniability. While establishing a clear paper trail to Amber, Hannah added, "It's sophisticated but provable fraud." By afternoon, we'd compiled enough evidence to approach federal investigators. Hannah made a call to a contact at the Financial Crimes Division, arranging a meeting for the following morning. "We should secure this evidence in multiple locations," she advised. "Keep nothing valuable here in the house." We were preparing to leave when the security system chimed with a perimeter alert. The surveillance cameras showed 2 men in dark clothing approaching from the back of the property. "That's not family," I whispered, recognizing neither figure. Security system malfunction. The panel suddenly announced, "Going dark." Someone had remotely disabled the home security. "Get upstairs," Benjamin ordered, surprising me with his authoritative tone. The panic room in the master bedroom. Richard installed it years ago. I hadn't known our house had a panic room, but Benjamin guided us to a concealed door in my parents' closet. Once inside the small reinforced space, he activated the security monitors, showing feeds from hidden cameras throughout the house. We watched in horrified silence as the men methodically searched the house, communicating via earpieces. They were clearly professionals, moving with practiced efficiency. "They're looking for the evidence," Hannah whispered. "Jason," I realized suddenly. "This has his fingerprints all over it. He has connections to some questionable security firms through his real estate work." We watched as the intruders found and took the decoy evidence files we'd deliberately left in the guest room. After an hour of searching, they left as professionally as they'd arrived, leaving no trace of their presence except open drawers and disturbed papers. As the front door closed behind them, my phone rang, Brianna's number. "Problem solved, little sister," she purred without greeting. "Next time, don't leave important papers lying around. Though it won't matter much longer anyway." "Brianna," I replied, struggling to keep my voice steady, "when did you become someone who would send men to break into a house?" She laughed, the sound chilling in its casualness. "Always so dramatic. Consider it a favor. We removed temptation. Stop playing detective and accept the inevitable. It will be so much easier for everyone." After she hung up, I looked at Hannah and Benjamin, both pale but determined. "We need to move now," Hannah decided. "They're getting desperate." We transferred all genuine evidence to secure locations, digital copies to Hannah's encrypted cloud storage, physical documents to her office safe, and a complete backup sent to a safety deposit box only I could access. With the evidence secured, Hannah arranged a meeting with federal investigator Sandra Wilson, who specialized in complex financial crimes. The meeting began tense and formal. Investigator Wilson, a sharp-eyed woman with 20 years' experience, viewed us with professional skepticism. "You're claiming your entire family has orchestrated an elaborate fraud scheme with you as the scapegoat," she summarized after our initial presentation. "That's an extraordinary allegation against prominent business people, which is why we've brought extraordinary evidence," Hannah replied, opening the first of many files. For 3 hours, we laid out the case methodically. The forged signatures, the offshore accounts, the documented meetings planning my framing, and the systematic identity theft. Benjamin's testimony as company partner provided crucial credibility. Slowly, Wilson's expression shifted from doubt to grave concern. "We've been investigating Hayes Financial for months," she finally admitted, "but we hadn't connected all these pieces." She studied a particular document showing my forged signature. "This changes our approach entirely." By meeting's end, Wilson had called in 2 colleagues and formally recorded our statements. I was granted provisional immunity in exchange for continued cooperation, with Benjamin receiving similar consideration. "Your family is returning tomorrow?" Wilson confirmed. I nodded. "According to our information, don't confront them," she warned. "Act normal. We need time to secure warrants based on this evidence." As we left the federal building, a weight lifted from my shoulders. For the first time, I had real hope that justice might prevail. But I knew the most difficult challenge still lay ahead, facing the family that had betrayed me, pretending I remained ignorant of their plot against me. "You can do this," Hannah assured me, squeezing my hand. "Just one more day of deception. Then it's over." I returned to the empty house, preparing myself for the ultimate performance of my life. The house no longer felt like home. It was simply the stage for our final confrontation. The sound of cars in the driveway woke me from restless sleep. Glancing at the clock, 10:17 a.m., I took a deep breath and prepared to face my family. Mother's voice drifted up the stairs, directing the chauffeur about luggage. Father's deeper tones followed, mentioning dinner plans. They sounded so normal, so familiar. It was almost possible to believe the past 2 days had been a nightmare. I dressed carefully in jeans and a sweater, applying just enough makeup to hide my exhaustion. The federal agents had been clear. Act normal, give nothing away. The investigation needed 48 more hours to secure all the warrants. "Amber? We're home," Mother called as I descended the stairs. She air-kissed my cheeks as if nothing were amiss. "The house looks surprisingly tidy. How was your quiet time?" Uneventful, I replied with a practiced smile. How was Aspen? Divine, Brianna interjected, entering with Jason close behind. The snow was perfect, the chef was French, and the spa treatments were heavenly. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Such a shame you couldn't join us. Last-minute decision, Father added smoothly, setting down his briefcase. We knew you wouldn't mind having the house to yourself for Thanksgiving. The casual lies were breathtaking in their audacity. 3 years of secret vacations reframed as a spontaneous trip I'd somehow been informed about but forgotten. Well, you must be starving after fending for yourself, Mother announced. I've arranged for a welcome-home dinner. The whole family will be here at 6. The implication was clear. Everyone would present a united front. The conspiracy was entering its final phase. Throughout the day, I maintained my performance of oblivious normality. I helped Mother with dinner preparations while she chatted about Aspen personalities. I discussed mundane office matters with Father while he casually asked if I'd been keeping busy in his home office. Brianna showed me vacation photos, gauging my reactions to their family happiness that excluded me. By 6 o'clock, the house filled with relatives. Uncle Philip avoiding my eyes, Aunt Kate overwhelming me with excessive affection, cousins watching curiously for signs of distress. The message was clear. The family stood united, with me as the outsider. Dinner proceeded with excruciating precision. Mother had arranged seating to place me between Uncle Philip and Jason, my betrayer and my enemy, while keeping me far from potential allies like Lucy. A toast, Father announced, raising his glass. To family, to our greatest treasure and strongest foundation. The irony nearly made me laugh aloud. After dinner, Father suggested the men enjoy cigars on the patio while the women cleared up. A throwback to antiquated family traditions he normally ignored. The real purpose became clear when Mother closed the kitchen door and faced me directly. Amber, darling, we need to talk about some concerns we've been having. Concerns? I kept my voice neutral, continuing to dry dishes. We've noticed you seem unstable lately. The questions about company finances, the accusations against Jason, the emotional outbursts. Brianna nodded with manufactured sympathy. We're worried about you, truly. Jason mentioned finding you in Father's office, Mother continued, going through confidential documents. The gaslighting was so skillful I almost doubted my own experiences. Had I imagined the evidence? The conspiracy? The betrayal? I think you're working too hard, Mother pressed, perhaps suffering from anxiety or even paranoid tendencies. We've arranged for you to see Dr. Mercer, Brianna added, naming a psychiatrist known for prescribing heavy medication. Just for an evaluation. Mother slid a document across the counter. A medical leave form for work. 3 months paid rest at a lovely facility in Arizona. I recognized the strategy immediately. They were establishing a record of mental instability to discredit any accusations I might make. 3 months in a facility would give them ample time to complete the financial frame-up while I was medicated into compliance. I appreciate the concern, I managed, but I'm perfectly fine. Denial is part of the condition, Mother sighed, exchanging meaningful glances with Brianna. Later, Father called me into his study. The same room where I discovered the evidence of their betrayal now served as the setting for the next phase of their plan. Amber, we need to discuss your financial future, he began, his tone deceptively warm. I'm concerned about your retirement planning. He slid documents across his desk, paperwork transferring my assets into a family trust. For protection, he explained. Tax advantages. I've had similar papers drawn up for Brianna. I doubted that very much. And these require immediate signatures, he continued, presenting another stack. Just some routine company matters authorizing year-end transactions. I pretended to review the papers while recognizing them as the final trap, documents that would complete the transfer of liability to me, accepting responsibility for the fraudulent transactions. Could I review these overnight? I asked. It's a lot to process after dinner. Father's smile tightened. Some are time-sensitive. Banking deadlines. Just a quick read-through, I insisted. Sign them, Amber. His mask slipped, voice hardening. Now. My phone buzzed with a text from Hannah. Sing nothing. I need time to review, I repeated, standing up. Father's expression darkened. After everything we've done for you, the opportunities, the support, the family name, and you can't do this one thing without questioning. Richard, Mother called from the doorway. Perhaps we're rushing things. Let her review the documents overnight. Father relented with obvious frustration. The papers remained unsigned, their trap temporarily avoided. After everyone left, Jason lingered in the hallway as I prepared to go upstairs. Your sister is worried sick about you, he said quietly. We all are. These delusions about the company, about being excluded, they're symptoms, Amber. Symptoms of what exactly? I asked. Stress, anxiety, perhaps something more serious. He placed a pill bottle on the side table. Pamela asked me to give you these. To help you sleep, Dr. Mercer prescribed them specially. The unmarked pills were almost certainly sedatives, designed to render me compliant for the paperwork signing they'd undoubtedly planned for morning. Thank you, I said, taking the bottle but having no intention of swallowing unknown medication provided by people plotting against me. In my bedroom, I pretended to take the pills, then called Hannah immediately. They're accelerating the timeline, I whispered, trying to establish me as mentally unstable and get signatures on transfer documents. We need to delay just 24 more hours, she replied. The warrants are being finalized tomorrow. I don't think I have 24 hours, I admitted. They're getting desperate. After a moment's thought, Hannah suggested, then give them what they want, appear to break down. Act as though you're accepting their narrative. Let them think they've won. It was risky, but might buy the time we needed. I agreed to play my most convincing role, yet the defeated daughter accepting her family's twisted version of reality. The next morning, I presented myself at breakfast with disheveled hair and red-rimmed eyes, pretending the medication had affected me strongly. I'm sorry for being difficult, I told my startled family. You're right, I haven't been myself lately. Father and Mother exchanged victorious glances. The papers, I continued docilely. I'll sign them now. Excellent, Father approved. After breakfast, as we ate, I maintained the performance of medicated compliance, agreeing with everything, questioning nothing. My apparent surrender visibly relaxed them, their guard lowering as victory seemed assured. In Father's study, I signed where indicated with exaggerated care, making a show of not reading the documents. What they didn't know was that I was using a special pen Hannah had provided, one with disappearing ink that would fade within hours, invalidating the signatures while appearing legitimate during initial inspection. As I signed the final document, Father and Jason dropped all pretense of concern. See how easy that was? Jason remarked, collecting the papers. Everyone wins when you cooperate. Everyone meaning you, I mumbled, playing my role of sedated confusion. Don't worry about the details, Father dismissed. The important thing is, you're helping the family. By taking the fall, I added drowsily. Father's expression hardened momentarily before he forced a smile. Nonsense. These are routine documents. For the offshore accounts? I pushed slightly, testing their confidence. You're confused, Jason interjected quickly. That medication is strong. Why don't you rest while we handle everything? They believed they'd won, that I was either genuinely medicated or had accepted my role as scapegoat. Their triumphant expressions as they left the study with my signed documents would have been comical if the stakes weren't so high. I continued the performance throughout the day, appearing increasingly disoriented while secretly recording their incriminating conversations. With my apparent compliance, they grew careless in their discussions. The transfer is complete. I overheard Jason telling Father in the kitchen. All liability now officially points to Amber. And the documentation? Father asked. Ironclad. When the investigation hits, she's the only one exposed. It's for the best, Father rationalized. She never really fit the Hayes family mold anyway. Too questioning, too independent, too honest, Jason added with a laugh. I recorded everything, each damning statement strengthening the case against them. My apparent defeat had given me my greatest victory, irrefutable evidence of their conspiracy in their own words. That night I texted Hannah, "It's done. They believe they've won. Evidence secured." Her reply came quickly. Warrants approved for tomorrow, 9 a.m. I closed my eyes, exhausted but triumphant. One more night in the house of betrayal, then justice would finally arrive. Exactly 1 year after waking to an empty house on Thanksgiving morning, I stood on the hill overlooking the Hayes family estate. The autumn air carried the scent of fallen leaves and wood smoke as I watched black SUVs with federal insignia roll through the ornate gates. Even from this distance, I could see agents in windbreakers approaching the main doors, where caterers had been bustling in and out for hours. The Hayes Thanksgiving Gala was in full swing, the annual showcase of family wealth and influence that my parents had spent weeks planning. Despite the growing legal pressure, their arrogance had been their undoing. They simply couldn't imagine a world where they weren't untouchable. Hannah stood beside me, her hand warm on my shoulder. "Are you okay?" "Better than okay," I replied, watching as agents entered the mansion. Benjamin joined us, binoculars in hand. "They're making the arrests now," he reported. "Richard, Pamela, Brianna, and Jason, just as planned." After that morning a year ago when I'd secured their incriminating conversations, events had unfolded with swift precision. Federal agents had arrived at the house with search warrants, finding evidence exactly where our information had indicated. The family's shock at seeing me clear-eyed and composed beside Investigator Wilson had been profound. "What is the meaning of this?" Father had demanded as agents began seizing computers and documents. "Richard Hayes, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy." Wilson had stated formally, reading him his rights while another agent handcuffed him. "This is outrageous. Amber, tell them this is a mistake." But I had simply watched, feeling strangely hollow as my family members were led away one by one. Mother's mascara-streaked face, Brianna's furious accusations, Jason's cold calculation as he immediately began negotiating. Scenes that still appeared in my dreams. In the months that followed, the case had grown beyond even our expectations. The Hayes financial empire was revealed to be built largely on fraud, with dozens of victims and hundreds of millions in misappropriated funds. Uncle Philip had turned state's evidence, providing testimony in exchange for reduced charges. The case had made national headlines: Hayes family fraud, American dynasty built on deception. Now, as I watched federal agents escorting my family members from their Thanksgiving gala in handcuffs, I felt not triumph but a complicated peace. "Miss Hayes," a voice called from behind us. Turning, I saw Lucy approaching with her 2 children, Sam and Ella. "You didn't have to come," I said, embracing my cousin. "I wanted them to see that doing the right thing matters, even when it's hard," Lucy replied, nodding toward her children. "Besides, you're the only real family we have left now." After the arrests, Lucy had reached out, one of the few family members who hadn't been implicated in the scheme. Our reconnection had been cautious at first, but gradually blossomed into genuine closeness. Together, we watched as the federal vehicles departed with their high-profile detainees. The Hayes family Thanksgiving tradition had been permanently altered. "Shall we?" Hannah asked, checking her watch. "Everyone will be waiting." We drove to the office building downtown where Benjamin and I had established Hayes Nelson Restoration Fund, a nonprofit dedicated to helping victims of financial fraud rebuild their lives. What had once been my father's corner office now served as the headquarters for an organization that worked to undo the damage his crimes had caused. Walking into the conference room, I was greeted by 24 people gathered around a long table set for Thanksgiving dinner. Some were former employees of Hayes Financial who had lost jobs and pensions when the company collapsed. Others were investors who had suffered losses. All had become part of my new extended family. "There she is," called out Sarah, a former administrative assistant who now ran our victim support program. "We were about to start without you." The room filled with laughter and warmth as I took my place at the head of the table. Benjamin, now my business partner in a legitimate accounting firm specializing in fraud detection, raised his glass. "To Amber," he toasted, "who showed us that family is about more than blood. It's about honesty, support, and standing together through the hardest times." "To found family," Hannah added, her eyes bright with emotion. As I looked around the table at these people who had chosen to remain in my life through the darkest period, I felt a fullness in my heart that no Hayes family gathering had ever provided. The journey hadn't been easy. The months of legal proceedings, testimony, and media scrutiny had taken their toll. There had been days when I questioned whether justice was worth the cost, nights spent staring at old family photos, wondering how it had all gone so wrong. Therapy had been essential in processing the profound betrayal and rebuilding my sense of self. Your family's actions reflect on them, not you. Dr. Martinez had reminded me repeatedly. You didn't cause their behavior, and you couldn't have prevented it. Gradually, I had stopped defining myself as the Hayes family scapegoat and reclaimed my identity as simply Amber, a woman of integrity who had faced unimaginable betrayal and emerged stronger. As we finished our meal, the doorbell rang. Lucy answered and returned with two teenagers I recognized as my sister Brianna's children, their faces drawn with confusion and fear. Their grandparents on Jason's side dropped them off, Lucy explained quietly. They said they couldn't handle them anymore with everything happening. The children stood awkwardly in the doorway, clutching small backpacks, casualties of their parents' crimes and the resulting chaos. I approached them slowly, remembering my own feelings of abandonment. "You're welcome here," I said simply, opening my arms. After a moment's hesitation, they stepped forward into my embrace. Later, as guests helped clear dishes and children played board games in the corner, Hannah joined me by the window overlooking the city. "1 year," she mused. "You've accomplished so much." "We all have," I corrected, gesturing to the room full of people who had rebuilt their lives from the ashes of my family's crimes. "What do you think about now when you remember last Thanksgiving?" she asked. I considered the question carefully. I think about waking up alone in that empty house, feeling abandoned and worthless. Then I think about today, surrounded by people who choose to be in my life, who value honesty and integrity. And I realize that sometimes the worst betrayals lead us exactly where we need to be. The road ahead wasn't simple. My niece and nephew would need stability and support as their parents faced years in federal prison. The Restoration Fund had hundreds more victims to help. My own healing remained a work in progress. But standing there, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson over the city where I'd found my true strength, I knew with absolute certainty that I wouldn't trade this hard-won peace for any family fortune. I had lost the family I was born into, but found the family I was meant to have. What's your story of betrayal and healing? Have you ever had to cut ties with family members for your own well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe to support more content like this. And remember, sometimes the family we create is more powerful than the family we're born into. Thank you for watching, and may you find the courage to stand in your truth, no matter how difficult the path.